wow, there's only 9 songs on here. When's the last time you saw a 9-song record?
Yeah.
Never. Morgan Wallen just put 36 songs on his new album.
Absolutely, yeah.
9 songs is nothing, but when they're all bangers,
Smooth country.
I'm always fascinated to know, because obviously, you know, you're gigging in the States and Canada recently as well all the time. Do you pick up a different vibe when you're in the UK?
Yeah. But like in the best way possible. I mean, I've said this a bunch, but like, I feel like when we make our set list for our American dates, it's pretty set in stone. You know what I mean? It's like, let's play the hits and let's maybe play like what we think our next single is going to be. And we come over here and we have to do like a 3 or 4 day rehearsal for UK because there are certain songs that hit over here that weren't necessarily hitting in North America. And so we kind of have to like dig back in our catalog and be like, what of these songs do we put in our set list, and then what hits do we take out to replace with certain like album cuts, and like, you know, what songs are like working in the UK that weren't being worked in North America. So like me and the band had a couple day, you know, rehearsal just for these 3 shows to make sure that they're different than what we've done in the States, and make sure that we're playing the songs that people want to hear. So
that's interesting. So it's not just like, let's roll out what we've just been doing.
Yeah, for sure.
And do you enjoy that process? Because obviously you're on you know, a certain agenda at home.
Yeah.
And then you come here, like you say, and you've got to relook at it all. Do you enjoy that, and maybe working with some of those songs you wouldn't normally do?
I do, because I feel like every time we leave the UK, we've played certain songs that we don't normally play in North America or Canada, and then all of a sudden the songs that we started playing over here make it back into our set list back in North America.
Ah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think that UK fans overall just do, I don't know if a better job is the right word, but they just really respect the record. You guys really respect records, and to me, that is the biggest deal in the world. To be able to know that someone lived with an album and like appreciated it for what it is, rather than I'm just going to go look at, you know, whatever the two biggest songs are, and those are the songs I listen to.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, why do we make records? You know what I mean? Like we're trying to tell a story here, and I feel like when I get to come over here, I get to actually play that story.
Now, you just won another award, so congratulations for your writing.
Thank
songwriting.
you. Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah, and I noticed on your socials, you actually said that, because you said you're a writer first.
For sure.
Which also lends me to kind of think, when you're writing songs and you also collaborate with others, so I want to talk about that in a second, and maybe some of your songs are used by other artists.
For sure.
Speaking as someone who has zero musical talent whatsoever.
I doubt that.
Yeah, no, really. But there you are. So they're almost your babies, your creations, your songs.
Yeah.
So how easy is it to give that one away to whoever?
Yeah.
Or do you have a bit of a struggle with that?
It's challenging, man, because anything that you write and put your stamp on, you want that to be for you. You know what I'm saying? I remember one of the first cases I ever had with that was like when I think I'd been in the game for like 3 or 4 years touring around. I had written a song that my wife was obsessed with. And for me, on my first record, I was just going in a different direction. You know, so this song wasn't really going to fit what I was about to do. And I remember Tyler Hubbard from Florida Georgia Line called me and he said, "Hey man, I heard this song called Round Here that me and Brian and Joey, his producer, are really wanting to record, and we think it's going to be a big song for us." And so in my brain, I was like, yeah, dude, that's not going to make my record anyway. You can have it. And my wife was like, please don't give that song to them. But in hindsight, they recorded it and it became a huge hit, and that literally helped pay for my first house. So it's like, it was to me, that was like my first go at letting someone else kind of have something that I really did love. And then today, man, it's just like I write so many songs. I mean, I wrote 120 songs last year.
Wow.
And so when you're talking about making a 15 to 20 song album, not every song is going to get the chance, you know? And I think there's a big misconception of like, when I pitch other artists' songs, I think I used to feel like when an artist would pitch me songs, I'd be like, oh, well, this just wasn't good enough for him, or her. So how could it be good enough for me? When in reality, that's not really the case. You're sitting there going, I put my stamp on this. This is just not right for this record.
Yes.
But it could be right for yours. You know, so like I wrote She Had Me at Heads Carolina, which was Cole Swindell's huge hit.
Massive.
And I remember walking out of that room looking at Cole being like, this is going to be a big song for you. You know what I mean? And you just kind of start to, as you do it, you know if a song is for you or if it's for someone else. And so I think I'm convinced that every song has their home. It just takes some trust to figure out where that home is.
Do you have anybody in mind that you're kind of bubbling behind the scenes? You think, I'd love to work with them, or? Are you able to say?
Yeah, I mean, like in our genre, Eric Church has kind of always been my idol, if you will. I mean, from like a modern standpoint, I grew up listening to Willie and Waylon and Merle and Hank Williams Sr. and all that kind of stuff. But like as a 16-year-old kid, learning how to play guitar, learning how to write songs, when Eric Church put those first 3 records out, and especially Chief, his 3rd album, that record just made me want to be a great songwriter and also be a great entertainer and performer. Like watching Eric go from like not wearing sunglasses to all of a sudden wearing sunglasses, and all of a sudden you're like, dang, that dude could kill me right now. But then you like hang out with Eric like one-on-one and you're like, oh, like we're kind of the same human being, But Eric for sure, we've spent the last 3 years sending songs to each other. You know what I mean? And I'll be like, hey man, what do you think about this one collaborating with me? He's like, I don't know, I think there's a better one. And so I do think there will come a point where me and Eric do get to collaborate, and that will be a huge milestone for me when me and him get to do something together. So that would be my country genre really want to collaborate with. But like out of genre, man, like I went through a gigantic Bruno Mars phase. Like I saw that show 5 times in the same year. And then I think I've rewatched his Super Bowl performance 50 times, just like learning. And I've gotten to meet Bruno a couple times, but that would be like a collaboration that would come out of complete left field that I think would be really, really fun to do. Man, I when the 24 Karat Magic album came out, I remember looking at that album being like, wow, there's only 9 songs on here. When's the last time you saw a 9-song record?
Yeah.
Never. Morgan Wallen just put 36 songs on his new album.
Absolutely, yeah.
9 songs is nothing, but when they're all bangers, it is like. And I remember I was in Uganda. We were in the middle of mine and my wife's adoption process with our oldest child, and that record came out the first month that we were there, and that's all I listened to for like 2 straight months. And so maybe that record holds sentimental value in my heart because I remember what we were experiencing at that point in time. But after that, dude, I went and saw that show, and I was like, how can I be this guy? Wow. How can I get a third of his swag? It will never happen, but one can dream.
Hey, listen, you never know. And if you're hanging out with him occasionally, maybe some of it will rub off.
Yeah.
Who knows? Got to ask you as well about your dad.
Yeah.
Now, Rhett Atkins, when you went along to some of the shows back in the day,
yeah.
Even as a little Thomas, were you looking at him like side of stage and going, I want to do that? Or was it just, that's what my dad does kind of thing?
I think I was just one of those kids. I really enjoyed being the center of attention as a kid.
All right.
Like anytime there was a camera out, I was like, hey, what's up? Like, you want me to do a dance? Like, you know what I mean? I've always been an entertainer spirit. Like even my wife is the same. Like when we do any get together, it is at our house because we love to host, we love to entertain, we love to cook, we love to serve, we loved all the things. And so as a kid, it really wasn't about wanting to do what Dad did. It was just like, hey, move over. Let me sing one for this audience. You know what I'm saying?
Did he let you?
Oh yeah, dude. And like playing the drums was my first instrument. So I'll never forget. I went to some like Nebraska county fair with my dad when I was like 9. And I learned how to play Sweet Home Alabama on the drums, and Dad let me get up there during their encore and play with him. And so that was kind of my first taste of like, this is cool, you know what I mean? And as I got into high school, I really just wanted to learn how to write and play and sing for the girl aspect. Like if I can go to a party and play, an old George Strait song or whatever's popping right now, maybe I can, maybe somebody wants to date the boy, you know what I mean? But it really wasn't until I got to college that I discovered I was not a great student. Like, me and math still have never clicked. I learned how to tip 2 years ago from my wife without using a calculator. And, I started hanging around my dad. I just started being like, hey, can I just come watch y'all write songs? Like, I'm not going to say anything. I just want to watch because I think it's so fascinating. And so I'd go watch them, and then I would start a band at school with a couple buddies that were also really wanting to be songwriters, and we'd play at frat parties, and we'd go play for like 20 people down at Puckett's grocery store in Franklin, Tennessee, and all this kind of stuff. And that's where I kind of got the bug, and I got to play a writer's round with my dad, and there was a publisher there who came and asked me, he said, can you write songs? And I said, I have no idea. Maybe. And he said, I want to sign you to a developmental publishing deal. We're going to give you like $300 a month. And to me, that was like I was rich in college. And I started just writing and ultimately ended up getting my first ever cut on Jason Aldean's My Kind of Party record. That song was called I Ain't Ready to Quit. And that was the moment where I looked at my mom and I said, hey, I'm going to drop out. And she said, well, you have to finish your exams and you got to get an A on all of them to get my blessing to drop out of school. Wow. And so I studied my face off, got an A on all my exams, and I dropped out I had like 20 hours of school left. And then just started playing shows and signed a record deal when I was 21 and off to the races. So,
was it more difficult in a way because of your dad and his fame and, you know, from the point of view of being related, or did you feel any pressure with that?
Yeah, in the beginning, it was like, I think a lot of people thought this isn't going to last. You know what I mean? Like he's getting he signed a record deal because his dad paid somebody to sign him. You know, he signed a publishing deal because his dad's a writer, and none of that was true. You know, my dad really did help me learn how to write songs, but when I started to become an artist, I did write with my dad a ton, and my dad was responsible for my first 2 #1 songs. But he was really diligent about letting me do it. You know what I mean? Like, he was always there for advice, but he was like, hey, it's time for you to go figure out who you want to go be. He was like, go find a bunch of other writers that have nothing going on. Go make friends with a bunch of artists that just sign record deals that don't have any success. And y'all go learn from each other.
Yeah.
Y'all go fail with each other. Y'all go succeed with each other. And, you know, it wasn't until really my second record, I remember, or even my first record, putting out a song called Make Me Wanna, that at the time really did not make sense on country radio. I mean, it was like the Bee Gees had a baby with Alan Jackson. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And that song sat at 40 on the chart for like 30 weeks. And I'm looking at everybody going like, well, there's always songwriting, guys. You know what I mean? Like, this is it. And then when Make Me Wanna went #1, it opened up this pathway for me that I finally had a lane that no one else was driving on. You know what I mean? Because that song led to Crash and Burn, which ultimately led to Die Happy Man, which led to T-Shirt, which led to Craving You, and Look What God Gave Her, and songs that really wouldn't have been accepted 10 years ago were now becoming a little bit of the norm.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of artists now singing about love, and a lot of artists doing kind of the more pop country thing. And so if it weren't for my dad being like, you just got to go be you. You can't go chase. You can't go copy, because there's already that person.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, at the time, it was like, there's only one Dustin Lynch. There's only one John Party.
Yeah.
Go be somebody different.
Yeah.
And to me, that was my lane, and I'm really grateful that he kind of let me make my own decisions and own mistakes that ultimately led to, you know, where I'm at today.
I've got to ask you about, you know, the whole family setup, because you share it on your socials.
For sure.
And I love some of the stuff you put on there. So recently, you know, there's that laundry basket on wheels.
Yeah.
And that really resonated with me and probably any other parent. I mentioned it on the show.
Yeah.
You know, you buy these expensive gifts, maybe if you can, at Christmas and birthdays. And the kid, you know, your little daughter or my little son wants to get in with the box.
Get in the box.
You know, and mess around with the stuffing in there. And so you think, what? So that was hilarious.
Yeah, it's the little stuff, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you could buy a box and turn it into a fort and say, Merry Christmas. They're going to be just as pumped.
What do they think of Dad, though? I mean, I'm sure I saw something recently where one of your daughters was like, almost, why are you famous, or why are you getting the attention? Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah, we were walking. You've been to Nashville?
Yeah.
So there's an area called Franklin, Tennessee, which is like south of Nashville, beautiful little town. And we were walking around Christmas shopping, and there was a group of girls that walked up and wanted a picture with me and my 5-year-old Ada James, who is the firecracker of our family. She looked at me and she said, why do people like you? And so I had to like come up with an analogy really quick, but I was like, hey, what if you saw Moana walking down the street? I was like, would you want to like go say hey? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, same thing. You know what I mean? She was like, yeah, but why do they like you? And I was just like, just forget it. Don't even worry about it.
That's hilarious.
But Ada James comes up to me all the time, and, you know, she wants to be something different every day. She's like, when I get older, I want to be a cop and a kindergarten teacher. And I was like, well, you probably can't do both of those things. And then some days she's like, I want to be a singer like you. And I'm like, are you sure? You know what I mean? And my wife's like, no, you don't. I promise you. But they all love music, man. Like, every time I'm in the studio downstairs at my house, they all love to sit there and record into the mic, or like make a beat, or play on piano, or pick up the guitar. And so I was thinking about the other day, people ask me all the time if music or musical knowledge is hereditary. And I think there is maybe something hereditary to it, but I think it's like if you grew up and your dad was a carpenter, you kind of just like innately know about how to make things with wood, just because you grew up around it. And so I don't know if it's much hereditary as just growing up and being saturated in it every day.
Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise, dude. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Smooth country.